Take a look at this thing. I mean, have you ever seen a launch monitor come in a case like this? Okay, so this is the GolfJoy GDS Plus portable launch monitor. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I have never even heard of this brand until they reached out and they asked if they could send us a unit to review, no strings attached. So I said, sure, send it over and let's find out what this thing is. Now, my first thought as soon as this thing landed is, wow, it looks a whole lot like the OptiShot Ball Flight. So either there's some white labeling going on here between the two companies with regards to the hardware, or someone is seriously been taking a peek at someone else's homework. But whether the hardware is the same as the OptiShot or not, one thing I can say for certain is that it's definitely running its own software. In fact, that's kind of in the area where I've been noticing since they first came on our radar that GolfJoy is certainly making some noise. We got to see a little bit with their booth at the PGA show, and the graphics on some of their simulation is definitely really top notch. But it got me wondering, could something like this possibly, for some people, replace something like the Foresight GC3, which is twice the cost of the GolfJoy GDS Plus. I mean, immediately some similarities. You see, they're both optical systems. The Foresight does have 3 cameras in infrared, whereas the GolfJoy is 2 cameras in infrared. And the reason we like the Foresight so much too is the screen on top, which gives us readings. This doesn't quite have that, but it makes me wonder, would someone be willing to forego a few things for half the price and go with the GolfJoy GDS Plus? So anyway, the GolfJoy GDS Plus claims to have 15 different ball and club data parameters, which sound great. But like I said, I hadn't heard of them before, so while it was on the way, I figured I'd do a little bit of digging and see if anyone else had reviewed it. Interestingly, the only review I could find anywhere online was from MyGolfSpy, and it said 2 very interesting things. For the pros, it said top-end graphics and world-class simulation experience. Like I said, we'll talk about that in a second. But the con stood out to me. It said, accuracy could be a little bit better. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, it feels like there's a lot more that needs to be uncovered there. And you can have the best graphics in the world, but if you're not getting good launch monitor data, does it really matter? I think we've all had that frustration of playing on a bad simulator and you're saying, that's not what my shot shape looks like. So I figured, let's put this thing to the test today. And for this little accuracy test, we're gonna use the new FlightScope Mevo Plus Limited Edition because A, it's been shown to be very accurate. We've done some other videos on the channel about it. But more importantly, this will give us both ball and club data, which is something we want to check and compare against the GolfJoy GDS Plus. One thing I'll show you in a minute that I haven't quite been super thrilled with on the GDS is the way that you need to label your clubs in order to get that club data. I will show you that in a minute, but we also want to take a second to thank our friends at playbetter.com because they loaned us this Mevo Plus Limited Edition to run through our tests, and they've been huge supporters of the channel. Go and check out playbetter.com. They've got the best prices and the best customer service, hands down, on any of the launch monitors or golf simulators you choose. We like them because they carry all of the major brands. We like to test all the brands here and leave it to you guys to choose which one is best for you. The good news is, no matter what you choose, you're gonna get the best price. And those guys are golfers just like us. They geek out about these same things that we do, so you are in good hands. So check out playbetter.com. Let's get this set up. All right, so as we set up our launch monitors here for our test, I want to talk about that software I mentioned earlier. So with the GolfJoy GDS Plus, you can integrate it with other third-party softwares for simulation, things like E6. But where I find they really shine is with their own homegrown software. GolfJoy has some really incredible software with regards to graphics and things like that. Again, it's something we got to see a little bit of at the PGA show, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to run it here at the moment. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it's honestly a bit expensive. It's about $300 to $400 per year for that software. And two, it does require a pretty robust computer. They've got all the system requirements listed on their website, but just know that if you're going to use this as your simulator, you're going to have to pay for that license, and you're also going to have to invest in a gaming computer, or at least a pretty robust computer with a good graphics card, which would add to your overall cost of the system. Now, the good news is they do provide a free app called GolfJoy Lite, and that provides some basic things like a range, some combines, and things like that, all free to use. We can also still get all of our data parameters in there. So as a pure launch monitor, we're good, and if you've got a way to integrate, or if you have a license with E6, you won't have to pay the extra money for their software. So for our test, I'm going to fire up GolfJoy Lite, and we're going to pull all of our numbers from there. Okay, we've got everything set up here and calibrated, and one thing I will say is that the GolfJoy app is exactly what it says it is. It is light. Like I said, you've got a driving range, combines, things like that, but once you get into the range, there's not a whole lot of nuances there. You can select club, but as far as some of the other things we've seen on some other launch monitors, like tagging specific clubs or tagging specific balls, you can't do that here. Like I said, if you wanted that, you'd have to invest in the more robust software. And GolfJoy claims with their latest update, you no longer need any special markings on the ball for it to pick it up. So I'm going to be using the Titleist RCT ball so that we get the best possible reading out of the Mevo Plus. Whew, one thing I will say is that GDS is quick. Almost no latency, immediately picked up the ball. So let's look at some of these numbers. So on the Mevo Plus, I got a carry of 145.3. Compare that to 139.1 on the GDS Plus. To me, just knowing my game, the 145 with an 8-iron is a little bit closer to what I'm used to seeing. That's a little bit short, but it's within 6 yards, not terrible. Ball speed is within 3 miles an hour. Club speed is within 3 miles an hour, which is pretty darn good. Spin. One thing that's really important to know with spin here is that with the GDS Plus, you can only get spin, backspin, I should say, and side spin. With most units that I'm used to using, you get a total spin and a spin axis number. So just keep that in mind. You can still get an idea of your overall curvature by looking at those numbers, but you can't compare them exactly. What we got for spin on the flight scope is 5,574 and a backspin number on the GDS Plus of 6287. The GDS Plus read it as a side spin of negative 442, which is a way of measuring that it curved a little bit to the left. I usually draw the ball, so that sounds about right. And on the spin axis, which would be the closest thing to that, for the Mevo Plus, we've got a spin axis of 3.3 degrees left. So a lot of similarities there. One thing I will say, though, is that if we look, we are not getting any club data. You'll see those numbers are all kind of blanked out, and that is because we haven't marked the club yet. We're going to do that in a second, but like I said, I wanted just to get an idea of some of the overall accuracy. So far, though, with that one shot with a mid-iron, nothing is really glaring at me as a big problem, save maybe for that shortage on carry. Let's hit some other distance clubs and see if that gets any better or any worse. Okay, so I pulled a 52-degree wedge here. I'm going to be very interested to see what we get for launch angle and spin, also carry distance. When I'm doing anything working on wedges, those are the three things that I'm looking at most closely, especially that launch angle and that carry distance, making sure to dial in those distances with the wedges. So let's get this set up. I get a little green check mark there that tells me that the device sees the ball and it's ready to go. Again, I like the no latency. That popped right up. The interface is pretty clean. Like I said, it's simple on the app. There's not a whole lot to it, but we got a clean interface. So carry distance that we read on the Mevo Plus was 97.7 yards. Here we're getting 103 yards on the GDS Plus, so a variation of about 6 yards. 6 yards, it's up to you guys to see what your tolerances are, but it is fairly significant when it comes to a wedge, but still not terrible. Ball speed was within 4 miles an hour. Club speed, we got a 10-mile-an-hour difference there, actually. So that one kind of stands out a little bit to me. Vertical launch, so that would be that launch angle. So we got 35.7 on the Mevo Plus, and we got 31.6 on the GDS. Now, we did do recently a video where we compared the Mevo Plus to the Foresight GC3, which I've always really enjoyed for shots like this with wedges. And we did find there that it was reading that launch angle a little bit high. So I see that number of 35.7. It's a little high for my launch angle, but they're both within 4 degrees. Take that, kind of for what you will. Spin numbers, we got 8,979 on the Mevo Plus, and we got a backspin number of 9,161 on the GDS. So we're right in there again, very close overall. Spin axis, that last one I want to look at, 1.3 degrees left compared to negative 175 on the GDS. What does all that mean? Well, it basically means I'd say we're within about 5% on just about all of them. So far so good. Like I said, we're kind of trying to paint a picture of what that review meant when it said that the accuracy could be a little bit better. I think that's definitely subjective, and it's going to be really up to what your own tolerances are. But let's hit the big stick and see if it really makes any difference. Not a bad ball there. Okay, first swing of the day. No judgment on the carry distance. Let's look at the numbers. 216.5 on the carry to 212.8 carry distance on the GDS. So we're within 4 yards there. Club speed is within 1 mile an hour. Pretty darn good there. Ball speed also within 2 miles an hour. So really looking good. If I look at both of those tracer lines for the overall shot shape, they look very similar. I have found that some of the view for the GDS, just the angle of the camera sometimes makes it look like it's coming out a little bit lower than it is, but that's just a visual. Let's look at the launch angle. So on the Mevo Plus, it's saying that we launched it at 9.3 degrees, and over here on the GDS, it's saying we launched it at 8.4 degrees. The backspin number we're getting is 2,653 on the GDS, and we're getting a total spin number of 3,358 on the Mevo Plus. One thing I'm going to say is that that is a high spin number for me. I have not seen spin numbers in the 3,000s on pretty much any other test I've done with driver, and it is one area where I believe that in an indoor environment, the optical units, similar to this or the Foresight GC3, I find that they excel the most because in a space like this, we have more than the minimum required distance, but radar, I do find it's the faster that ball is traveling, i.e. driver, the harder it is for it to pick up spin. So if I've ever found any areas where spin numbers can be a little bit off with radar-based devices, it's with driver. And to me, they seem a little bit high on the Mevo Plus there. As far as spin axis, 4.9 left compared to a side spin of negative 515, which is that draw that I usually hit. So across the board, as far as ball numbers go, so far pretty good. Let's now do some club data, and I could show you what I mean about this labeling that it doesn't thrill me. All right, I popped the lights on so you can see this a little bit clearer, but one thing I'm used to doing, whether it's with the Foresight or with the Mevo or the other devices that we've tested that do club and club face, is putting these little reflective dots on there, if you can see that. They're really easy to put on, they come off easily, it's a sticker. and it's really non-obtrusive in any way. Now, one thing I said before I'm not super thrilled with, especially with putting it on brand new clubs, is with the GDS Plus, you do get this sticker. It's a little bit bigger. It's like paper thin, but it is a sticker throughout. And according to the instruction manual, what they want you to do is wrap that around the hosel. So I'd imagine that the optics of the device are going to be looking for these 3 lines. So for the sake of a full test, let's go ahead and put that on there. Now, I'm going to kind of do this as accurately as I can, and I'm going to estimate where they want it based on what I see in the instruction manual. But it is tough to get it on there perfectly without any crinkles, but there it is when it's done. Like I said, not super thrilled. I would imagine a little bit of alcohol could take that off when you need to because it's really on there. But let's see what club data we get with it. Okay, a couple of things here. Carry distance was within 2 yards, so again, pretty good there. Angle of attack, that kind of jumps out at me. I mean, I got a -4 degrees, so hitting down 4 degrees on the Mevo Plus, which sounds about right. And we got a positive attack angle on the GDS Plus, which I don't think that's about right, especially a positive attack angle with a pitching wedge here. It seems a little bit off, but let's keep looking. Face to path, we got 3.2 left, so a little bit closed on the Mevo Plus compared to 10 degrees left, or a -10 degrees on the Golf Joy. That seems a little bit more closed. The club path, we got 0.9, so less than 1 degree right on the Mevo Plus, and then we've got 7 degrees right on the GDS. That's interesting as well. So these numbers to me are a little bit further in disparity than what we saw with the ball numbers, and some just don't quite, for me, pass that kind of litmus test. There's one other thing I want to show you too. We do get a face impact with both devices actually. We get a face impact with the Mevo Plus. It kind of shows where it hit on there. And then if we look on the GDS, we can also see that same information. Actually, I just pulled it up, and interestingly, it did not read there. Usually you'll get an indication. So let's hit another one and see if it reads this time. I'll have it kind of auto pop up that club data this time so we can see if it generates a impact location on the face. So according to the Mevo, it impacted a little bit in towards the heel and low. We did get a similar kind of area on the GDS there. As far as our overall numbers though go, attack angle continues to be kind of something that's standing out to me. Here we're almost a square attack angle, almost less than 1 degree down on the GDS, the Golf Joy, as compared to 6 degrees down on the Mevo Plus. Some of the other numbers, you can kind of see them there, but face to path just jumps out at me again. 15 degrees, it's saying that it was closed. Now, I didn't see that, I didn't feel that, and that's not what we got with the Golf Joy. So really not too bad in numbers, but I don't know if I was going through anything like a club fitting, if I'd be fully prepared to rely on that with the club data. The ball data was a different story. I thought that was pretty good. So one other thing that's worth noting is the entire time we've been doing this on battery power. We still got some significant battery left. You can also plug this in and run it directly powered, but it's good to know for anybody who's thinking about bringing this to the driving range. I'd imagine you're gonna get 1 to 2 hours out of it. But again, going back to that question of accuracy, is this worth it? Should be something that's in that conversation if you're running a budget around $3,000 to $4,000 for a launch monitor. And I would say certainly yes. I was definitely impressed with the overall accuracy of the ball data. I think this light software that we were using, it was quick, easy to use, very responsive. Keep in mind though, if you want to use their full simulation, you're going to have to run it on a computer. Maybe you already have one, maybe that's an additional investment, and you're gonna have to pay for the license in order to do that. But one thing I said earlier is that all the best software in the world, the best graphics mean nothing if it's not accurate enough. And I think what we proved here today is that I think it's definitely accurate enough to be viable as a home simulator setup. But if you are someone who's doing club fittings or something else where you really need that club data, that's the area that worried me a little bit. Maybe it's something that will get better with time, with an update. I would love to see a system that doesn't require those stickers that we put on, because I think there's a lot of potential room for error there in the way that you apply the sticker. It's not as simple as putting a dot on the face. But you guys let us know what you think. What do you think? What's your initial first impressions of the GolfJoy GDS? And do you want us to put it through any additional tests? We've got it now here in the arsenal to test it against other launch monitors. So let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.